for the IG search. The first item we have on that agenda is a report by Chairman Talley of the Audit Committee. I understand there was some difficulty getting him on. Mrs. Bass, is he there now?
I believe he is on the phone. Mr. Talley, are you there? I can see his phone connected, but I'm not hearing him.
Okay, I understand IT is working with him to try and connect him. So at some point when he's available, we'll certainly give him the opportunity.
Okay.
Superintendent, with your authority, we'll have Dr. LaCava start off this portion of the meeting.
Yes, sir. That's fine. Dr. LaCava, your team can go forward.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, Mr. Barbieri and School Board. We are excited that we are halfway through the Inspector General search, and we'll work through with that, but now we are heading into the shortlisting piece of this process. And with me today, I have Mark Mitchell, Gail Williams, and Edwin. We're all practicing social distancing with our masks. Since we're in the same room, we did not want to take the chance of spotty Wi-Fi like the last time we met. So just wanted to kind of reiterate a couple of pieces. We started this process a couple of weeks ago. 24 candidates have applied, 10 were screened in, and we just finished having the audit committee last week, and we believe that they provided some great feedback. I know Mr. Talley will share some of that feedback with this group this afternoon as well. Now we are getting ready to do the shortlisting phase, and we're going to share with you a couple of directions on how to accomplish this very efficiently and hopefully very easy. And just remember that we shared some of the instructions on the shortlisting process guidelines on June 20th, 2020. It was on the agenda for that school board meeting, and throughout the last several weeks, we've been working with legal to make sure that this process is tight and it meets every possible policy and Sunshine State policy possible. So with that in mind, I want to take you through the shortlisting process. And let me ask you, number one, the first thing that I would like you to do is on the top right-hand corner, there's a chat box for every board member. If you don't mind clicking on that.
Dr. LaCava, 1 second. Ms. Sprill's had her hand up. I think she wants to say something. Ms. Sprill.
Hands up, so my apologies.
Thank you. And I don't want to interrupt everybody, but I just have to express a little bit of frustration, and because I know that we've been talking about this process for a while, and I guess until you're in the process, sometimes you don't realize how the process is going to work. And so part of my frustration, and I thank the audit committee, I watched the meeting and rewatched the meeting, but I would have loved to have had the opportunity for us to talk about the candidates that weren't shortlisted. None of them were reviewed by the audit committee. I also, and I may make a motion after Dr. LaCava goes through the process, but as I looked at the resumes, I was thinking, gee, I don't know if I really want to be boxed into 3 choices. Maybe we should have the ability to shortlist more, but because of Sunshine, I couldn't share that with all of you. So you wouldn't have had the opportunity to see if there were others that you wanted to shortlist. So I'm just feeling very frustrated. I know all of you know I've asked over a year ago for us to start this process, but now I feel like we are going very quickly, and it's such an important position that I would have loved to have had an extra week to talk to you first and then come back and do the shortlisting. So I just needed to put that out there.
Mr. Chairman, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Chairman Talley, go ahead. I'm glad you were able to join us. Go ahead.
You can hear me, right?
Yes, sir.
Good. Well, I'll just be real brief, Mr. Chairman and school board members. As you all know, the audit committee met virtually last Friday, the 29th, to review 10 IG candidates and provide input to you all. All 7 of our board members were present. Let me first congratulate HR and Dr. LaCava for providing us with such a concise notebook. not at all like it was previously, and it provided us the 10 applicants who complied with the job description of Inspector General. This complete package made it easy to review. We discussed each of the 10 candidates for 5 minutes each, pointing out the strong points and weaknesses. I want you to emphasize that our goal was not to prioritize, but only provide our input to you all on the school board. Several items that we recommend be focused on are experience with governing boards, number of staff supervised, are they responsible for investigations, and how many audit reports were conducted annually. My committee took this job seriously and hope our input will assist you in making the selection of the district's new Inspector General. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Talley. And as I told you at the audit committee, there was five of our board members were actually watching that meeting live with you, and I'm sure all of us have had the opportunity to review it because the link went out to all of us. But you all did a great job for us, and we appreciate it. In fact, I've watched your video now twice to go over the candidates again to hear what you had to say. So thank you to all of you for doing all that heavy lifting for us to help us to come to a decision on this.
It was our pleasure. Good luck.
Thank you. Ms. McQuinn, did you have?
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Mr. Talley.
So, am I on, Mr. Barbieri?
Hold on a minute. Ms. McQuinn is trying to talk, but her lips are moving, but we don't hear anything. So, Ms. McQuinn, if you get IT to come out to your house, I've got a button on my keyboard that's a slash that I hit it and it turns the microphone on and off, and I don't have to look for that stupid white bar and try and find it. But there's a way to fix this. So if you can't talk right now, we'll come back to you. Whenever your microphone goes on, I'll recognize you. Go ahead, Dr. O'Connor, in the meantime.
So I just want to thank Mr. Talley and, of course, for all the feedback. I know my staff has been working very, very hard to make sure that we provide the board with the best information to make the best decision. And I think in regards to Mrs. Brill, I think if the board pleases to add or do something differently, I think it'll be completely up to the board. But we will do whatever you guys direct us to do.
Dr. O'Connor, Ms. McQuinn came live, so go ahead, Ms. McQuinn.
Thank you. I wanted to thank Mr. Talley for doing an amazing job of running a tight meeting. And also, I found the input from the audit committee members very, very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead, Dr. O'Connor.
No, that's it. I just wanted to make sure that I responded to Mrs. Brill's request, and whatever the direction is from the board, we'll be glad to do. But I just want to make sure that when we went through the screening process, we were looking specifically for the job qualifications. If a person did not have a certain criteria, we put no. If a person didn't meet a certain criteria, we also put no. We were not making assumptions. We were going strictly by the qualifications of the job description. So that's why we were able to select 10 people to be screened in, and we screened out anybody that did not have one of those qualifications. So just wanted to put that out there in regards to our thought process and our guidelines to do this.
Ms. Burrell, go ahead.
Thank you. So under the people that were not screened into the process, the one person that I pulled, that I questioned, thinking that, perhaps, and, I don't write job descriptions. And so I don't even know how to put this in the right words, but David Rhodes was the person that I was looking at who had previously, he's also worked in Broward, and he was screened out apparently because of his bachelor's degree being liberal arts. But if you look at his background and experience, I think they merit consideration. So, to me, and I know in my career, my bachelor's degree didn't drive, and my associate's degree didn't drive what I did as a career. I don't know, I wouldn't put anyone on the spot with regard to what they're doing now in their roles, but whether their bachelor's degree matched what their actual job was. But I would hope that all of you would just take a look at his 19 years experience, it looks like, with audits and inspector general positions. And that was it. I didn't have any other questions about him other than the fact that, our job description says bachelor's degree, blah, 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 or related field. And I was told that a liberal arts degree is not considered a related field, but to me, a bachelor's is a bachelor's. So I put that out to you.
Mrs. Brill, I had a similar question about Mr. Rhodes, and actually I asked Dr. LaCava if he could define how they determine what's a related field is. And Dr. LaCava, would you explain to the board how you went through that exercise to make sure it wasn't an arbitrary, I decide, you decide? Would you explain how we did that?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Once we looked at Mr. Rhodes, he had a lot of the other qualifications, and we really wanted to make sure that a related field, how does his degree match up to the related field? And I believe that his degree is in sociology. And so I asked Ms. Williams, Director of Non-Instructional Recruitment, to look into that. And the first answer was no, they did not qualify because sociology is not a related field to the Inspector General. So then I asked her to again get some documentation from the Department of Education. And we received an email, I would say about 2 days ago, and the explanation was that sociology is only relatable in social sciences. Is that correct?
Correct.
And that was a response from the Department of Education. We did not go looking anywhere else since we guide ourselves through the guidance of the Department of Education.
So when Dr. LaCava answered that question for me, I asked Mrs. Rico if we were jeopardizing our selection process if we wavered from remember we went through this with Ray and Associates, and they gave us a lot of people that didn't qualify because they didn't meet all of our requirements. So the concern, I guess, and Mrs. Rico, you can probably explain, but I guess the concern would be that if we make a variance here for this individual, if we know that he didn't meet all of the qualifications, we may have issues with the others that we didn't give the same opportunity to. Mrs. Rico?
Thank you. So, yes, I would just caution the board in adhering to the four corners of your job description, which very clearly issues a shall have the requirements, the identified areas of study for the undergraduate degree were clearly articulated, or related fields was, an additional qualifier. And if the board would be so inclined, I would recommend that they follow the policy, not deviate at this stage, and give deference to or consideration to HR's opinion and input on the academic qualification there.
Ms. Bro?
Thank you. So I will defer to HR and to our general counsel, and hope that in the future, when we do look at job descriptions, and hopefully we won't be doing this again anytime soon, but perhaps if a person has a higher level degree, like a master's or a doctorate, in the position, in the field that we are interviewing for. Now, I understand this particular candidate doesn't, but I don't think that a bachelor's degree is necessarily the driving force for hiring someone. I think if they have higher degrees that would supersede, that relate to their field, it would supersede that. But I will defer to their judgment on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Brill. So Dr. LaCava, well, board members, I guess what we need to decide is Dr. LaCava is going to explain to us how we do the voting. But before we actually start voting, I guess the board needs to decide, do we want to discuss candidates among ourselves, or do we just want to go to a straight vote? I mean, we don't have a process that's been adopted at this point, so it's up to the board members how they would like to move forward. I see your hand, Ms. McQuinn. One more second. And the other thing that I understand is after a very lengthy discussion with a very stressed out board chairman and Mr., well, I won't name him, but we all know and love him in the general counsel's office. When we vote today, every single time we vote, as we go through, they're going to read off the 7 board members' names and who we voted for. Then when we did the second vote, they're going to read off our names and who we vote. I really don't care. It's just a question of couldn't we just make all that available after the meeting as a public document, because it is public? But in any event, we're going to be going through that exercise when we get to the part of the voting. So, Ms. McQuinn, go ahead and give me and then Mrs. Andrews.
It would be my preference, obviously I go with the group, that we go ahead and submit our 3 top. And then if that requires discussion, because we vary greatly, then we have a discussion.
Okay, Mrs. Andrews?
Yes, I concur with what Mrs. McQuinn has just said, but I had another piece that we may want to discuss later. But I thank you all for getting the reference sheets from HR. And whatever we decide as far as the top 3, many of those reference sheets did not give us an opportunity to actually make a connection with their current place of employment. And we just really need to have that information before we make our final selection. So I really want to make sure that we have some discussion about that when we come up to the top 3, that we get an opportunity to find out how well they're doing, where they're situated now in their jobs.
Ms. Brill?
And I concur with both Mrs. Andrews and Mrs. McQuinn. I'd rather just go to the vote. Coming from the corporate side of the world, I've never, and when I was in HR, reached out to references before we got to hiring. I could definitely agree with having staff check references of the top 3 before we go into the interview period. But I personally was not comfortable contacting any references at this juncture. But I do agree. I'd like to just go to the vote. And yes, I can go with 3 if that's what the board wants, or I could go with 4 if that's what my colleagues want.
So with respect to that, the board members, you have your own opinions on whether we should shortlist 3, 4, or 5, what the number? Currently, the anticipation is that we would shortlist 3. Does anybody feel that they'd like to shortlist more than 3? See nobody shaking their heads yes. So Dr. LaCava, would you please explain to us how we're going to do this, since we're not all in a room where you can pick up ballots from us and count?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, and due to the fact that we're in a virtual work environment, we had to kind of work around. So if everybody can go to the top right-hand corner, and there's a chat feature between the time and the number of participants, and there's 3 lines. If you click on that, there will be a link that comes out of there. And once you get that link, please double click on the link and you should get a Google form. So I will stop there and see if anybody's having any issues getting that Google form. And I can do that one more time. Does everybody see the where the time of the meeting's at? It should say 3 o'clock.
Up in the top right.
Up on the top right-hand corner. And if you click on that chat feature, there should be a link. And Mrs. McQuinn, we're here to help you.
You may have to present it to show.
Okay.
I had it once. Now I'm moving over to that big screen, which I have loved. And for some reason, I just don't see that thing now. Okay, so work with me.
Sure, no problem. That's what we're here to do. Whatever we have to do to make this process smoothly.
Maybe that's it. I got it.
Awesome. Mrs. Andrews, do you have it?
No, I do not.
Okay. Other than Mrs. Andrews, does everybody else have it? Thumbs up if you please. I'm going to work you through like I do my FAU class. Okay. Mrs. Andrews, on the top right-hand corner, you see a time?
Yeah, and I'm under chat, and I clicked on chat twice. Mm-hmm.
And do you see a link that came out?
Don't click the time, click the little icon.
Click the icon of the chat. The time.
It's not the time, Mrs. Andrews. Would everybody turn their microphones off, please? Mrs. Andrews, it's not the time. There's a little box with an arrow pointing down. That's what you need to click on. That's the chat box.
I did click on the chat box. Yep, I don't see it.
I'm going to present my screen, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Do you see this little box, Mrs. Andrews, right here between the time and the participants?
Yeah,
All right,
I
click once.
clicked on that. I don't get anything.
You should have a link.
No, it's not coming through.
Okay.
Copy and paste. She may have dropped off.
Let me do it one more time. I'm going to do this for you, Mrs. Andrews. Give me 1 second. Do you see it now?
Yeah, we got it now. Mm-hmm.
Great. Thank you very much for working with me, Mrs. Andrews, and the board. So what you're going to do now is you're going to go down to the board member that says choose, and you're going to click on your name. And after you click on your name, you're going to select your top 3 candidates. You're going to scroll down and submit. And then you're going to give us about a couple minutes it's going to self-tabulate, but just give us a minute just to make sure everything is fine. So let me stop there and see if there's any questions.
We have 2 of them so far.
All right, so far we have 2. Mr. Shaw.
Yes, when I went to that, I lost my name off the screen. So what do I need to do?
Let me make sure. Let me see. Give me 1 second.
Right now, my name is in the top right corner of my screen, but it's not in the big field. And when I click over to chat, my name disappears.
Let me see if we can. Give me 1 second. I'm trying to troubleshoot this while I'm talking.
If he clicks the link, that should work fine.
Were you able to click on the link, Mr. Shaw?
Yes, I'm on the link.
You're on the link. So once you click on the link, do you see the form come out?
Yes.
All right. So once you go to the form, you said you don't see your name?
No.
And the drop down?
In the drop down, hit the arrow where it says choose. Right here. Am I presenting still?
I don't think so.
Let me, give me 1 more second, Mr. Shaw. Let me present my screen one more time. Mr. Shaw, do you see my screen?
Yes. I didn't know that. That will not come up on mine.
It won't come up?
No, I click on chat when the screen on the right, it's got your name on it and it says chat. I click and nothing's happening now at all on that.
So in this case, we are going to go to work with you, Mr. Shaw. We're just going to take your 3 votes verbally instead of working through this. Instead of that was our second our alternative plan in case some of this did not work. So
right.
He's using his Palm Beach.
And then one more question. Do you know if you're using your Palm Beach account for your Google account?
I'm not sure which one. It's whatever the link was that Carol, when she sent it to us.
No problem. Do you mind giving us the 3 names of who you're choosing?
Yes.
Wait a minute. He can't give the 3 names before all of us vote. Because then we're going to see how each other's voting ahead of time. If we're going to do that,
I will wait for everybody to submit their votes. Let me see how many people we're waiting on. Mr. Mitchell, how many people are we waiting on?
We have 4. We have Ms. Whitfield, Ms. Brill, Ms. Andrews, and Ms. McQuinn.
All right, so we are still waiting on, who are the people that we're waiting on?
We're waiting on Mr. Barbieri.
Mr. Barbieri, we're waiting on your votes.
Dr. Robinson.
Dr. Robinson.
And Mr. Shaw.
And Mr. Shaw. And then we'll wait, Mr. Shaw, for you to go last.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
So I have a question. Where's my question?
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
Well, 2 things. One, why don't you just email the form to Mr. Shaw?
It's emailed.
It's emailed, correct?
So he can check his email.
Mr. Shaw, we also send it to you by email. Sorry, did not mention that earlier. Thank you, Dr. Robinson.
Okay, and then the second thing is, so I see on this form, we had to check 3.
Correct.
So on subsequent forms, are we going to be required to check a certain number?
Yes, depending if there are ties, we'll have to have a runoff. And yes, ma'am, that's true.
Okay, we'll see how the math goes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Mr. Shaw.
So, Dr. Robinson, we're waiting on you before I can take Mr. Shaw's verbal vote.
No, it's
Yeah.
the safest.
So, Mr. Shaw, the form should be in your email if you want to try that. If not, I will wait until Dr. Robinson's complete and I'll take your verbal vote.
You should have mine. It didn't come through.
I have it.
Yes, we just received it.
Okay.
So, Mr. Shaw, would you like to give me your 3 votes or are you working through the form? You're on mute, Mr. Shaw.
Mr. Shaw, turn on your microphone.
You checking my math? Yeah. And
I haven't gone through the place on here.
Okay.
What tab is that?
Second tab, major.
Dr. LaCava, I think I just sent you the
Form?
first round.
Very good. Let us
I
check.
have it.
We just received it, Mr. Shaw. Thank you. So give us 1 minute. We're going to tabulate. Just make sure that we review the tabulation and we'll get right back to the board and start the second round. Thank you very much.
Just so you're aware, I'm using 2 different computers to do all of this now since I've got the email going, so.
Mr. Shaw, whenever you want to come work for the IT department, let us know.
No, you would never see anything work again, ever.
Dr. Robinson, while we're waiting, somebody should send your grandson when he's 25 years old a clip of the point where he told everybody in the world that he picks his nose. So you probably get a kick out of that when he's 25. We need Jeopardy music here. Who's got the link to Jeopardy? Mrs. Whitfield, you want to sing?
You seriously do not want me to sing at all.
All right, we are back. Mark's going to go through the results, and we are going to have a runout. So in about 2 minutes, you're going to be receiving a link, but I'm going to let Mark go through the verbal results right now.
Thank you, Dr. LaCava. And just to read everybody, what happened when you voted is it submits to our screens. We get a timestamp to your votes, and I'll read those off in the order received. Ms. Whitfield had Harper, Michael, and Russo. Ms. Brill had Ali, Bliss, and Michael. Ms. Andrews had Hewitt, Navarezny, and Russo. Ms. McQuinn had Ali, Cashman, and Michael. Mr. Barbieri had Ali, Bliss, and Navarezny. Dr. Robinson had Ali, Holmgren, and Michael.
You're sending it to me?
Yep, you got it.
Mr. Shaw had Ali, Hewitt, and Michael. So when we tabulate those, we have Ali and Michael with our top 2 vote getters, and then we'll have a runoff of 4 that will now send you another vote for. So we're going to send you a link with these 4 names for Bliss, Hewitt, Navarezny, and Russo, and you get to please vote for one of those when you receive it.
And I think Mrs. Brill has a question, Mark.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, you said it was Mr. Ali, and are you talking about Teresa Michael or?
Yes.
Okay, because when you said Mr. it threw me. So okay, and then can you give me the names again of those we're voting on so that I can take a quick look?
Yes, ma'am. The runoff for third place, your third selected candidate for the shortlist. The runoff consists of 4 names: Bliss, Hewitt, Neberesny, and Russo.
So, Mr. Barbieri, do you want to give the board a couple of minutes just to review their notes while I prepare the link? Or would you want me just to move forward and get the link prepared?
Before I answer that question, I'm confused because first you said Ali was in it, but you just answered Ms. Brill with 4 other names and he wasn't included. So who are the 4 that we're not down to out of the 10? Are there 4 now that we're going to do a runoff on?
Yeah, the 4 for the runoff. Let me first state that Ali and Michael are in your final group of candidates. So you've already selected 2 of the 3 for your final shortlist. Now we're at the point of selecting the 3rd name. There is a tie for the 3rd place between Bliss, Hewitt, Neberesny, and Russo. And we'll send you another link to click on and submit 1 name out of those 4. You'll see those 4 listed.
Okay, thank you. So I guess what Dr. LaCava asked was, do we want to, at this point, discuss those 4 people before we vote, or do you just want to go through the next vote without any discussion at this point? Those people that just want to go to the next vote, just put your thumbs up.
All right.
Looks like you got a majority. Yeah.
Dr. Robinson, I didn't see your thumb. Did you want to discuss?
Her mic is on.
What I think, I don't know right now. Can we hear that tally again? I'm just, because it just didn't add up the same way in my head that you announced it. So can we do it one more time for me? I'm sorry.
Dr. LaCava or Mr. Mitchell?
You're on mute, gentlemen. You're on mute.
Oh,
Thank you, Dr. Fenoy. Go ahead, Mark.
I'm sorry, Dr. Robinson. I was just seeking to clarify your question. Would you like me to summarize the total tabulations, or would you like me to summarize?
Yeah, say what you said before when you said, like, I voted for whoever I voted for, and who, do that again when you announce the votes. That's, I think, what I'm getting my language together.
You got it.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. For Ms. Whitfield, I have Harper, Michael, and Russo. For Ms. Burrill, we have Ali, Bliss, and Michael. For Ms. Andrews, we have Hewitt, Neberesny, and Russo. Ms. McQuinn, we have Ali, Cashman, and Michael. Mr. Barbieri, Ali, Bliss, and Neberesny. Dr. Robinson, Ali, Holmgren, and Michael. Mr. Shaw, Ali, Hewitt, and Michael.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
I will prepare the link. Give me 30 seconds.
That's fine. That's fine.
The link has been added to the chat feature again. If you go back to that chat feature, it will be there. Please use the last link provided, and the time for that link was sent at 3:15 p.m.
Perfect.
You got it right?
There we go. Yep, perfect. Oh, here we go. So
Dr. Wakabi, you received my email back response.
Yes, you were the first one. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Give me a minute here.
I'm still in the meeting.
He's still working on it.
So far, we have 6 of 7 board members completed their vote. We will wait another couple minutes.
Dr. Robinson, you had your hand up?
Did my vote go through?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. It was delayed last time. Thanks.
All right, we have received all the votes for the board members. Give us 30 seconds. All right, the envelope is in. We're going to unseal it. Mark Mitchell, go ahead.
I feel like we're on the game show. Mr. Shaw, Russo, Ms. Brill Hewitt, Ms. Whitfield Russo, Mr. Barbieri Bliss, Ms. Andrews Navarezny, Dr. Robinson Navarezny, Ms. McQuinn Russo. So therefore, when you tabulate those votes, Russo ended up with 3. So that is our 3rd finalist. So our 3 finalists are
Aline, Michael, and Russo, right?
That's correct.
So the 3 finalists are Aline, Michael, and Russo.
Now with that, unless there's any questions, we'll talk about it.
Any questions on the short listing, the tabulation? If not, Mr. Mitchell is going to wrap up the IG piece with the timeline on the question creation and development. So I will wait to see if there are any questions at this time.
Board members, do you have any questions? I see none, Dr. LaCava, go ahead.
Go ahead, Mr. Mitchell.
Thank you very much. I just want to call our attention to the remaining items on the timeline, what will happen from this point forward. Obviously, the timeline called for June 3rd shortlisting, which we've successfully done. It also, just as an item, talks about development of interview questions. We've talked about the methodology here for I guess, during the process here, and we've actually used this in previous superintendent searches. So the notion is, on the timeline, it says each board member brings 3 questions to the actual interview, with the thought is you ask 2. The 3rd one is really a backup. If another board member asks one of your questions that you had as your top 2, you move to your 3rd. So at the actual interview, each board member would ask 2 questions, right, of all candidates. To assist you in preparing your questions, Ms. Williams is going to send what we have is a bank of questions from the district on what we do for previous interviews. So we'll send those to you just to help guide you. So that's the thought on question development. And I'll stop there before I go to the next item and see if there's any questions on that.
Board members, do you have anything? Go ahead, Mr. Mitchell.
Thank you, sir. So the next item on there is from today through the 16th, because the finalist interview will be on the 17th, the public virtual interviews. We ask, and the timeline calls for each board member to schedule no more than a 30-minute discussion, which each of our 3 finalists will send you. If you don't have it, we'll send you the contact information for these 3 finalists. We will also proceed with, according to the timeline, conducting the background searches with the external background search firm that we've contracted with. We'll probably get with them tomorrow, give them the names, and they'll begin that as well, and we'll share that with the board. So that's the process going forward. We're certainly open to taking any questions at this time.
Yeah, can I ask a question real quick before the board proceeds? On the scheduling of appointments, would it be better if we send it to the board office? Because if all 7 board members start contacting people, they won't know the schedules. So I feel like you need like a centralized scheduling of appointments with the 7 board members, so the 3 candidates, there's more consistency. I hope you understand what I'm saying. Mr. Barbieri, go ahead.
Yeah, I agree with you. I was going to say the same thing. It's going to get too cumbersome with 7 board members calling 3 individuals, and they're not going to, they're going to have to keep answering phone calls. And if the board office could schedule that for us, we could all submit, to let somebody in the board office handle that for us. Ms. Brill? Ms. Brill?
Thank you. And so I also agree it would be better to have the board office schedule us, but are we doing these by phone or are we doing them by a Google Meet or what, how are we doing that?
Yeah, it will be completely your preference, whether it's by phone or by Meet.
So board members, you'll have to let the board office know if you want to do a virtual, where you can see them or just want to talk to them on the phone. You'd each let the board office know when you contact who we're going to use up there. Dr. Floyd, probably throughout this board clerk. Carol?
Yeah, let's just make, we'll make Carol Bass the point person. I mean, obviously she's in contact with all of the remaining assistants, and we will work on that this week and get that organized for you. Carol, is that okay?
Absolutely. We got it.
All right, Mrs. Andrews?
I just want to be clear, I have to go back and look at these three individuals. Some of them said they did not want their current place of employment checked. So I just want to make sure that I can have that information before I make a decision. So what was the conclusion as to how this is going to work with finding out how well they're doing in their current position? I still haven't gotten that clear as to how that's going to be crystallized for me and the rest of the board members before we make a selection.
Mr. Mitchell, instead of going through us going through right now and taking a look, can you look quickly and tell us, of those three individuals, did any of them tell us that we could not contact their current employer? And I believe all of them gave us contact references, but did any of them tell us? I know somebody referenced, I don't know if it's one of the ones we selected. One of them.
I didn't get it, but I don't.
For those three.
Yeah, we're looking for it now.
Can you give us a couple of minutes to look through our documentation?
No, of course.
Mr. Barbieri?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. May I ask a question?
Certainly.
Great. Is there a reason why we can't have them come in and meet face-to-face with social distancing, of course?
They're all over the country, so they would have to fly here. I'm not sure, some of them may want to get on an airplane at the moment, but.
Mr. Mitchell can answer that question while I'm reviewing the document.
I believe, when we posted this job, we let the candidates know it'd be a virtual interview. So at this point, that was already put out there. Not that, we couldn't change it at this point, but that was already put out there.
So you have no, so what about that?
Not seeing anything.
I don't see anything.
Okay. So I did, Mr. Chairman, to answer Mrs. Andrews' question, at this time, we're not finding anything from any of the three candidates that were selected that it states explicitly that we cannot contact their current employer.
Okay, great. So I see your hand, Ms. Brill. Hold on one sec. So with respect to Mrs. McQuinn's question, I guess that, the best way to handle that, since we can't do face-to-face here, is to schedule the virtual meeting so that we can talk to them and see them and they can see us when we're talking to them. Ms. Brill, do you have something?
Thank you. All I was going to say is for those candidates that didn't want their employers to know, we live in the sunshine. So most likely their employers know. So, it is what it is. In Florida, once you apply, that's it. You're out there.
Yeah, and that was a discussion we had earlier today. Once they apply, there's really nothing to shield them. So thank you for that point, Mrs. Brill.
Okay,
Any further questions, Mr. Barbieri or school board members?
Well, I think there's still an outstanding question. Is the board's will and pleasure that we check the references before you even set up interviews and get you reference checks? Is that, I want to hear, I need to hear what you want. Mr. Barbieri, I need you to really let me know exactly what you want us to do.
So I saw 2 thumbs up. Mrs. Andrews and Dr. Robinson said, yes, I agree. We'd like to have the reference checks, the criminal background checks, all the other stuff done before we do the personal interviews, so we don't have to go through that for nothing. Can I see thumbs from the other? Mrs. Whitfield, is it okay? You would probably would you prefer to have the background checks now or after we do the interviews? Now?
You said both.
Ms. Brill?
Thank you. You can do them now. I don't have an issue with it because now they're shortlisted.
Ms. McQuinn? Ms. McQuinn's frozen, but,
Yes, yes. Thank you.
okay, so I believe, and Mr. Shaw,
It's 2 weeks away, so I don't know if they want to wait that long.
so all the board members would like that. Go ahead, Doctor.
Go ahead, Mr. Carver.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that everyone's aware that a background check using this third-party company could take up to 7 days. So just, I just want to make sure everybody knows that, so we don't get our expectations that it's going to come out
Right.
40.
Let me go ahead and be clear about this. I think reference checks can be done. I think before a final offer would be given to anyone, then we can do the criminal, we can get that process started. So I wouldn't want to delay getting you guys embedded in the process, waiting on the criminal background check, but we can always start that process. And before a final offer is given to anyone, we'll have that done. But we can definitely get the references done in the next day or two. I'm sorry, not the next day or two, next week.
I thought I was listening to something.
Like, I know y'all have masks on, but I got a really dirty look right then.
So board members, what the superintendent is suggesting is the deep dive background check is going to be done after we do our interviews. Is everyone okay with that? Let me hear from you, please. Tell me the thumbs up, yes, you're okay with it, or turn your microphones on. Mrs. Whitfield, you're okay. Ms. Bill's okay. Dr. Robinson's okay. Ms. McQueen is frozen, so.
We're going to start the process of trying to get those background checks done. It's just going to take a week, and so that we'll have an opportunity to interview people before that. That's the case.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Yes, that's what we're asking is that okay? Some of you may start your interview, get your interview scheduled before that background check.
Absolutely. That sounds great. I just want to make sure we have that pretty soon.
Okay. Unless I hear an objection from somebody turning on their microphone, we'll assume that that's the process the HR will follow for us.
Yes, sir.
Board members, do you have anything else? Dr. LaCava, do you have anything else that the board needs to advise?
No, I just want to thank the school board and the chairman and the audit committee for all their feedback. We're heading in the right direction, and anything you need, we're always here. Have a great day.
All right, thank you. Mrs. Whitfield, if anybody else has anything, otherwise we can take a motion to adjourn. Motion by Mrs. Whitfield, seconded by Ms. Brill. Assume there's no discussion, all in favor, all opposed. Motion carries, the meeting is adjourned. Everybody safe trip home. I understand 95 might have some issues, so if you're going to South, probably should stay off of 95.
Yeah, I agree. Y'all have a great day, everybody.
Thank you.